you know how to do time lapse? One. Dead on. Can I see your camera as well? That's a good shot that's not been taken by anybody else when they're standing. Right, let me just do a video panorama. Don't go right in front of my camera though. You ruined my beautiful shot. Wow, it's a big group, isn't it? You're getting some big, nice big photos.
Fine.
Look at this. Cool.
Is it worth the wait?
I'll find out. Definitely.
The bridge is going to look good. When it gets dark, it's going to look good and you get reflections on the water. So you want to try and get, as well as you, like get in here as close as possible. And if you can, try and get a bit of the water because that tide's going to change. So that'd be quite nice to get as it comes in. So, but settings wise, just make sure it doesn't fall in, yeah?
Great. And
yeah, all right, I'll show you how to do it and then you can have a fiddle. So plug that in.
I'm like,
So this goes, so the right angle goes outwards. Okay. Turn the camera on. There we go. Right, let's drop. So I want to go into aperture priority mode. And we're going to drop our ISO, which is way too high at the moment. Just bring that display up. Can't see what to do. ISO is way too high. I'm going to bring that down to 640.
640.
Just because it's, I think, white balance, we need to fix that. We're currently set to auto white balance. Take it off, that's setting it to daylight. Okay, got that there. Right, next thing we want to do is make sure we're not on autofocus. That will kill your time lapse. Manual focus.
Manual.
Let's just check our live view shot. Okay, you're currently set to underexposed by 2 stops, so change that. Anyway, so we've got that there. So next thing we need to do is come out of live view. Right, go back into menu. We want to set the up bracketing. So go scroll along on the top, the top dial. Keep going, one more. And then move up to exposure compensation using the bottom wheel. Select that. Now using the top dial, I want you to turn it to the left until it goes -2 and then +2. Move it to the left, keep going. It's not doing anything, is it? Okay, hold on. It goes a long way around, so my fault. That way. So what it's going to do, we set it now to expose a correct exposure shot, 1 exposure under, sorry, 2 stop exposure under, and 1 2 stop exposure under. So that's going to create. Do you want to do HDR time lapse or just going to do straight time lapse?
HDR time lapse.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going for a good challenge, so we're happy with that. So next thing we need to do is change the drive to set it to multiple exposures. So what we need to do is go into here. We're going to have to do this. Drive here. And we're going to just move this to continue shooting. Yeah? Okay. Now, with the timer, just put time in your hand. I want you to move along to frames. And you move along by pressing the in and then scroll this one on the side there. This dial here. Hang on. No, my fault, sorry. Mode. Frames is at 0, which is good. Next thing we need to do is go to interval. We're going to set that to 1. And then we're going to set long exposure, which means it's going to effectively holding down the actual trigger. I'll explain why in a minute. So that's 5 seconds. Which basically means it's going to take every 5 seconds it's going to take a set of 3 photos. Okay? Right, so let's just hold on, we'll just check the shots. And we're going to do a test trigger. Right, it's done 3 shots. So we'll have a look by pressing play. So the first photo, hang on, where are we? So let's check the numbers. Right, that's the first photo. It's correctly exposed there. And that one is under, and then that one is over. And blend those 3 together. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to make sure you format your card because it's full up. Make sure your lens is clean, it's got some water on it. Find your shot and do it. So, and it's already set up to go. Is there anything you're not sure about?
I don't think so. So, cool.
I mean, you've got 999 spaces left for photos. I wouldn't do it in RAW, actually, for time-lapse. I'll come out of RAW, just because it's going to make it slightly difficult for you in post. So we'll take it out of RAW, put it into large JPEG.
Okay.
So you don't need to erase anything there, you can keep the space on there. What I would recommend doing is just separating your time-lapse in your camera so that it's not with all your other photos. And the way to do that is when you go to Menu, I'm going to go to Select Folder, Create Folder. So we now have a new folder which we've selected. All our time-lapse is going to be in that new folder. So when you go to your card, you'll know that that's that.
Can you just show me one more time how you did the
so all I did, the interval, normally that governs how much time there is between each shot. 1. So it will take a photo of 1 second, but it's not going to do it with HDR, because HDR, we're telling it to take 5 seconds to take the 3 brackets by using the long exposure mode. That is governing our interval, not the interval. As soon as we're going to long, it overrides the interval setting. Normally in time-lapse you wouldn't shoot using long. It's purely using for long exposures or any bracketing. So if we change this to, say, 1, it would try and take 3 exposures, one after the other, as quickly as possible. You'll watch this camera go crazy. Here we go. So every 1 second it's doing 3, which is going to be too much. We don't need that many.
5.
So I would say, yeah, I mean, what you've got to try and take into account is how dark it's going to get. You're at ISO 640, I think you're going to be fine. So at 640, I think 5 is probably a nice, good number. Anything between 3 and 5.
Does it cause it problems if you start going, once it gets dark and you're on 5-second exposures, does it, are you going to have problems?
It does still work, but your interval is screwed up, because it will always remember the last photo it took. It'll always remember it's in bracketing mode, and it will continue to try and take brackets. It will just screw up your interval times, that's all.
You should be giving a longer interval.
Giving it a longer long exposure time, just to make sure that your exposure, the time between each bracket is even. Not each bracket, each set of brackets is even.
Can you explain that long exposure again when you're...
Yeah.
I don't know if you were explaining something just now, but when you're done.
Yeah, long exposure is simply overriding the interval on this. So it's effectively, it's as if we're holding down the trigger. So we're holding down the trigger for 5. So, but this camera's been, we've now told this camera to take 3 photos. So it will take those 3 photos, and it will take 5 seconds before it does another 3. That's all it is.
So that's the long exposure setting.
Yeah, long exposure.
Okay.
Yeah, but you must be in continuous. Not on single photo on this. If you're on single photo, it won't work.
Right.
You've got to be continuous. But I think for us at the moment, because we're quite far off night time still, we don't want it to be too quick, otherwise we're going to fill up the card and we're going to have too many photos to deal with. What we want to do is get a nice sort of average time. 5 seconds is quite good. As long as your battery lasts, it should be fine.
Do you set the bracket in here or in the whole camera?
No, in the camera. So there's that. You can find a good spot.
What bracket was the negative?
Yeah, the bracketing in there is taking 3 exposures. You can set it to anything you want. You can set it to like a third under or a third over. We set it to the most extreme that the Canon 5D can do, which is 2 stops under. The 60D can do 3 stops under, but its 5D can do 2 stops under. And that's going to give us the biggest dynamic range when we come into post. We're going to have, what it's going to do is it's going to expose perfectly on the 2 stops under for the sky, and it's going to expose perfectly for the darker areas, like on the pillars and stuff. So it'll have all that information, and you can decide how much you want of that information. Okay? You're welcome. I'm around. So yeah.